The morning mist clung to the Cascade Mountains like a living thing, thick and gray and cold. Marine Sergeant Blake Hoffman moved through it slowly, a rifle up, eyes scanning the tree line 200 meters ahead. The valley floor beneath his boots was soft from overnight rain. Every step squelched. Too loud. He knew it. His team knew it. But there was no other route. The forest pressed in from both sides. Douglas fir and western hemlock branches heavy with moisture. Somewhere a raven called. The sound echoed off the ridgelines above, distorted by distance and fog. Hoffman raised his fist. The patrol stopped. 6 Marines, spaced 10 meters apart. Professional spacing. They'd done this 100 times before. But this valley was different. Everyone knew it. 8 coalition personnel had died here in the past 3 weeks. Single shots. Long-range, professional kills. Ghost team, they called the enemy. Snipers who appeared from nowhere, killed and vanished into the mountains. Hoffman lowered his fist. The patrol moved forward. He didn't hear the shot. The bullet arrived before the sound. That's how it works at long range. Physics, the round travels faster than the report. Supersonic, so the first thing Hoffman registered was the impact. Not pain, not immediately, just force, like someone had punched his chest with a sledgehammer. His feet left the ground. He was airborne for a fraction of a second. Then he was on his back, staring up at the gray sky, trying to breathe and failing. His lungs wouldn't work. The air had been driven from his body. He tried to inhale. Nothing. Panic flooded in. Around him, Marines hit the dirt. Someone was yelling, radio chatter. The sharp crack of the rifle shot finally arrived, echoing across the valley. Single report. High-powered rifle. The sound rolled off the western ridge and bounced back from the northeast. Directional confusion. Impossible to pinpoint. Corporal Travis Donovan crawled to Hoffman's side, grabbed the drag handle on his plate carrier, started pulling him toward cover. Another Marine laid down, suppressing fire. Pointless. They couldn't see the shooter, didn't even know which ridge he was on. Hoffman's vision tunneled. The gray sky above became a pinpoint. The voices around him faded to white noise. He thought about his daughter, 3 years old. She'd asked him last week when he was coming home. Soon, he'd said. Soon. The bullet had struck the ceramic plate on his chest. Center mass, the plate had caught it. Stopped the penetration. But the kinetic energy had transferred through the armor like a shockwave. Blunt force trauma. His sternum felt cracked. Maybe his ribs. He still couldn't breathe. Donovan dragged him behind a fallen log. Other Marines established a perimeter. Someone called for medevac. The radio crackled. Command acknowledged. 15 minutes out. Hoffman finally managed to draw a breath. Shallow, painful, but air. He was alive. For now. The shot had come from somewhere between 800 and 1,000 meters. Professional distance, professional placement. The shooter had been aiming for the gap between Hoffman's armor plates. He'd missed by 6 inches. But 6 inches at that range with wind and elevation factors was nothing. The shooter was good. Ghost team was good, and they'd just claimed their 8th victim. Hoffman survived. But the message was clear. No one was safe. 300 miles north in a forward operating base tucked into a narrow valley between 2 mountain ridges, Mackenzie Brennan studied a topographic map spread across a folding table. The map showed 50 kilometers of terrain. Green contour lines marked elevation changes. Rivers and streams traced through valleys. Small squares indicated structures. But what interested Mac were the red X marks scattered across the western sector. 8 marks, 8 kills, 3 weeks. She leaned over the map, reading glasses perched on her nose. 45 years old. Gray beginning to thread through her dark hair, lines around her eyes from 2 decades of squinting through rifle scopes. Her left shoulder ached, a dull throb that never quite went away. Old injury, torn rotator cuff from 7 years ago, surgically repaired but never the same. She traced the line between the X marks with her finger. The pattern seemed random at first, scattered across 40 square kilometers of mountain terrain. But patterns were never truly random. Humans created patterns, even when they tried not to. Behind her, the command center hummed with activity. Radio operators monitored frequencies. Intelligence analysts updated digital maps. A coffee pot burbled in the corner. The usual controlled chaos of a forward operating base. Mac ignored it all. She'd learned long ago to create silence and chaos. Focus on what mattered. Right now, what mattered was this map. These 8 deaths. And the men who'd caused them. The door opened. Lieutenant Holden Westfield entered. 38, fit, clean-shaven, by-the-book officer. He carried a folder marked classified. Morning, Mac. She didn't look up. Morning, Lieutenant. Commander Phillips wants Element 7 in the briefing room in 5. Copy that. Westfield paused. Watched her study the map. You see something? Max straightened, removed her reading glasses, slipped them into her pocket. Small concession to aging. She hated them. But eyes didn't lie. Vision degraded over time. Accept it and adapt. Or fail. Maybe. Won't know until I see more data. Intelligence thinks they're former U.S. military, working for the cartel. Intelligence thinks a lot of things. Westfield almost smiled. 5 minutes. The briefing room was small. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, a projection screen at one end, folding chairs arranged in rows. Most were empty. This briefing was for Element 7 only. Mac's team. Chief Petty Officer Garrett Ashford stood by the coffee station. 41, stocky, perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. He'd been Mac's spotter for 10 years, 12 deployments together. They'd developed the kind of communication that happened without words. A glance, a gesture, understanding. Garrett handed her a coffee cup as she entered. Black, no sugar. The way she'd drunk it for 20 years. Heard Hoffman took one this morning, he said quietly. Body armor caught it. Lucky his armor held. Unlucky the shooter was 6 inches off his aim point. Garrett nodded. 8 for 8. They're getting bolder. Petty Officer Everett Kane sat in the front row. 29, thin, nervous energy. First deployment, communications specialist, good with technology, less experienced with combat. He was fidgeting with a pen, clicking it on, off, on, off. Max sat behind him. Kane, he turned. Yeah, the pen. He looked down, realized he'd been clicking it. Sorry. Nerves are normal, but control them. Kane nodded, pocketed the pen. The door opened. Commander Phillips entered. 52, Navy lifer, 3 decades of service, salt and pepper hair, eyes that had seen too much. He carried a laptop and a thick briefing folder. Behind him, Westfield closed the door, locked it, classified briefing. No interruptions. Phillips connected the laptop to the projector. The screen lit up with a satellite image. The Cascade Range. Mountains and valleys, green and gray and white. Element 7, Phillips began. You're here because we have a problem that nobody's been able to solve. He clicked a key. The image zoomed to show a specific valley. Red markers appeared. 8 of them. 3 weeks ago, a DEA agent was killed during a vehicle patrol. Single shot, 800 meters. The round struck him in the gap between his armor plates. Instant kill, professional work. Click, the first red marker highlighted. 2 days later, an FBI investigator, 600 meters, same precision, gap in armor. Click, second marker. Over the next 2 weeks, 6 more coalition personnel, Marines, DEA, FBI, one of our own from SEAL Team 3, all killed by long-range precision fire, all by shooters who were never located before they disappeared. Phillips turned to face them. Intelligence assessment indicates we're dealing with at least 4 individuals, operating as a coordinated team based on the kill pattern, multiple kills on the same day at locations 5 to 10 kilometers apart. They're positioned to cover different sectors, communicating, coordinating fires. However, the actual number may be higher. We're not certain. Garrett raised a hand. Intel on who they are, former U.S. military, specifically scout snipers, dishonorably discharged 3 to 4 years ago. Various offenses. They've been working as security for a weapons smuggling operation running guns across the Canadian border. The cartel hired them to keep law enforcement out of this sector. Max studied the red markers. What's the ROE? Shoot on sight, no capture necessary. These are enemy combatants operating on U.S. soil against federal agents. Authorization comes from the top. Westfield crossed his arms. We've got drones, thermal imaging, ground patrols. Why haven't we found them? Phillips pulled up another image. Terrain analysis, elevation maps. The area they're operating in is 40 square kilometers of some of the most complex mountain terrain in the continental United States. Dense forest, steep ravines, constant weather. Thermal imaging is useless through the canopy and fog. Drones can't see through the tree cover, and they know this terrain. They've been operating here for months, maybe years. He closed the laptop, looked directly at Mac. Element 7, your primary mission is to locate and neutralize this sniper team. You have operational freedom to plan and execute however you see fit. Resources are available. Time is not. Every day they operate, more people die. Silence in the room. Mac spoke. We'll need all available intelligence. Kill locations, times, weather conditions, ballistic analysis of recovered rounds, terrain studies, everything. You'll have it within the hour. And we'll need 3 days to study it before we move. Westfield frowned. 3 days, sir, with all respect, every day we wait. Every day we wait, we're not dead, Mac cut in. She looked at Phillips, not Westfield. These shooters have been successful for 3 weeks because they're patient, professional. They know the terrain. If we rush in reactive and emotional, we'll be killed number 9 through 12. We need time to analyze, to plan, to prepare. Phillips nodded slowly. 3 days, not 4. 3 days. The briefing ended. Files were distributed, laptops assigned, and Element 7 had a mission. Find Ghost Team and end them. Max spent the next 8 hours in a small office with maps, weather reports, and satellite imagery spread across every available surface. Garrett worked beside her. 2 decades of partnership. They didn't need to speak constantly, just occasional observations, thoughts shared. Western slopes, Garrett said, pointing at the map. 7 out of 8 kills happened on western-facing slopes. Mac nodded. She'd noticed. Sun angle, early morning shots, sun in the east. Western slopes are in partial shadow. Concealment for the shooter. Targets in brighter light. Smart. Basic tactics, but properly applied. She traced the kill locations again. 8 red marks. But now she saw something else. A pattern within the pattern. Look at this. She drew 3 lines connecting locations. These 3 ridge lines, they form a rough triangle, 15 kilometers on each side. Garrett leaned in, studied it. Overlapping fields of fire. Right. If you position 1 shooter on each ridge and keep 1 or 2 mobile, you can cover most of the valley, all the main roads. So they're not reacting to our movements. They're positioned where we have to eventually appear. Max sat back. Her shoulder gave a sharp twinge. She rolled it gently. Tried to ease the tightness. Didn't help much. Never did. They're hunting from fixed positions, she said. Patient, waiting for targets to enter their engagement areas. That's doctrine. That's training. These aren't militia fighters. These are professionals applying what they were taught. Garrett pulled up a personnel file on his laptop. Intel sent over what they have on the suspects. 5 names. All Scout Sniper School graduates. All discharged between 2020 and 2022. They think at least 4 are active, possibly all 5. He turned the screen so Mac could see. 5 faces, all male, years ranging from 32 to 48. Military photos, stern expressions, the look of men who'd seen combat. One face made Mac pause. She knew him. Older now, gray in his hair, lines around his eyes. But the same face from 20 years ago. The same man who'd taught her how to calculate wind drift, how to control breathing, how to squeeze a trigger instead of pulling it. Nathaniel Caldwell, her instructor at Scout Sniper School when she was 25 years old. He'd been 28 then, a rising star in the sniper community, patient teacher, demanding, fair. He'd pushed her harder than anyone. Told her she had the potential to be exceptional if she was willing to do the work. She'd done the work, and now 2 decades later, he was on the other side. Mac closed the laptop without comment. Garrett noticed. He always noticed. You good, fine. That's not an answer. Mac stood, walked to the window. Outside, dusk was settling. The mountains were dark shapes against the darkening sky. I knew one of them, she said quietly. Long time ago. Garrett waited, gave her space to continue or not. That was their pattern. No pressure, just presence. Nate Caldwell. He was my instructor at sniper school. Best teacher I ever had. That's difficult. No. Mac turned from the window. It's simple. He chose his path, I chose mine. The mission is what matters. But even as she said it, she felt the weight. Nathaniel Caldwell had shaped her into the sniper she'd become. And now she was hunting him. The irony was sharp. That night, Element 7 gathered in their team area, a corner of the base converted into living quarters. Bunks, lockers, a small table, coffee maker. The essentials. Westfield spread out the operational plan on the table. Based on Mac's analysis, we're looking at likely sniper positions on 3 primary ridgelines. West Ridge at bearing 270, Northeast Ridge at bearing 045, South Ridge at bearing 090. He pointed to each location on the map. Engagement ranges to the valley floor range from 700 to 1,400 meters, well within capability for trained snipers using precision rifles. Kane looked nervous. So how do we find this? If they're that well positioned, they can see us coming. We don't try to find them in their positions, Mac said. We make them reveal themselves. Garrett understood immediately. Bait, Mac nodded. We coordinate with a Marine patrol. They move through the valley on a predictable route, appear to be a normal patrol conducting routine operations. We position ahead of time in counter-sniper overwatch. When Ghost Team engages the patrol, they expose their positions. We identify and eliminate. Westfield frowned. That puts the Marines at significant risk. They're at risk anyway, Mac countered. Ghost Team has been hitting patrols for 3 weeks. This time, instead of being victims, they're partners in an operation. They'll be wearing full armor, moving in patterns designed to minimize actual exposure, and we'll be covering them. You're asking 6 Marines to walk into a kill zone. I'm asking 6 Marines to volunteer for a mission that ends this threat. Yes, there's risk. There's risk in every patrol they conduct. At least this time we're prepared, we're positioned, and we're ready. Silence around the table. Everett Kane spoke quietly. What if we miss? What if they shoot and we can't locate them fast enough? Mac met his eyes. Young, scared, honest about it. She respected that. Then people die, she said simply. That's the reality. We're not playing game. This is live. The enemy is professional. Mistakes have consequences. Kane swallowed, nodded. Westfield studied the map. Assuming the Marines agree to volunteer, where do we position? Mac pulled over the terrain analysis. South Ridge, here, 850 meters from the valley floor where the patrol will move. Clear sight lines to all 3 suspected enemy ridge positions. Good concealment, covered withdrawal route if needed. Garrett added, I'll spot for Mac. You and Kane take overwatch 200 meters behind our position. Security and communications. Westfield considered it. He didn't like putting people at risk, that was clear, but he also understood the mission. Ghost Team had to be stopped, and this was the best plan they had. I'll brief the Marines tomorrow, he said finally. Get volunteers. If we don't have 6 willing participants, we abort and develop alternative options. Agreed, Mac said. The meeting broke up. Gear was checked. Rifles cleaned, preparations made. Mac returned to her bunk, sat on the edge. 2 decades of carrying heavy rifles, wearing body armor, and sleeping on the ground had accumulated. Her body reminded her constantly. She opened her locker. Inside, among uniforms and gear, was a small wooden box. She opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Bravo Team, 7 years ago. 12 people, all smiling, all alive, except 3 of them weren't alive anymore. 2 years ago, Bravo Team had been conducting a reconnaissance mission in the mountains of Afghanistan. Mac had been team leader. She'd made a call, positioned the team in what she'd assessed as good defensive terrain. She'd been wrong. The enemy had hit them from 3 sides. Ambush, perfectly executed. 3 of her people had died before they could establish effective return fire. 3 more wounded, the rest fought their way out barely. Mac had made the wrong call. Read the terrain incorrectly. Positioned them poorly. 3 people died because of her decision. Their names were carved into her memory. She saw their faces when she closed her eyes, heard their voices. That failure defined her now. Every decision she made was filtered through the lens of that mistake. She triple-checked everything, questioned every assessment. She closed the box, put it back in the locker. Tomorrow they'd finalize the plan, the day after they'd execute. And she'd be careful, deliberate, prepared, because she couldn't afford another failure. The next morning, Westfield returned from his meeting with the Marines. 6 had volunteered. Good men. They understood the risk, accepted it, wanted to end Ghost Team as much as anyone. Max spent the day refining the operational plan. Garrett worked beside her. They studied satellite imagery, calculated ranges, analyzed wind patterns based on historical weather data, prepared range cards, double-checked equipment. By evening, everything was ready. Element 7 gathered one final time before the mission. Westfield laid out the timeline. 0330 insertion, 4-hour hike to position, set up before dawn. Marine Patrol enters Valley at 0615. We maintain position until threat is neutralized or operation is compromised. Mac checked her rifle for the 100th time. Accuracy International, AXMC, .338, Lapua Magnum. Custom modifications she'd made over the years. Schmidt and Bender 5 to 25 times scope. She'd zeroed it herself, trusted it completely. 5 rounds loaded, more in reserve. Each round was match-grade ammunition, hand-picked, weighed, verified. At the ranges she'd be shooting, every variable mattered. Kane was checking communications equipment when Garrett's encrypted phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, opened an email, read it twice, then looked up at Mac. You need to see this. She crossed to him. He handed her the phone. The email was from Intelligence Division. New information. Source intercepted cartel communications. The message was simple and concerning. Ghost Team bounty $500,000 USD to anyone who eliminates counter-sniper element. Priority target. Mac read it again, handed the phone back. Westfield processed the implications immediately. They know we're coming. Not specifically, Garrett said, but they know someone's being sent to hunt them. And they're incentivizing anyone in the area to help eliminate that threat. Kane's face had gone pale. $500,000. Every criminal in the region will be looking for us. Mac remained calm outwardly. Inside, calculations were shifting. The mission had just become more dangerous. Changes nothing, she said. Westfield turned to her. Changes everything. If they're expecting counter-sniper operations, they'll be alert, prepared, looking for us. Then we'll have to be better than they expect. Mac, Lieutenant, she cut him off. Not disrespectfully, but firmly. These men have killed 8 people in 3 weeks. They're getting bolder. This morning's shot on Hoffman was 900 meters. Longer range than their previous kills. They're getting comfortable, maybe even cocky. That's our advantage. What advantage? They know we're coming. They know someone might be coming. They don't know when, they don't know how, and they don't know it's us. Mac gestured to her team. We've been doing this for 20 years. They've been successful for 3 weeks. There's a difference, Ramirez. Garrett nodded slowly. We abort, they keep killing. We proceed, at least we're taking action. Westfield looked at each team member, reading them, assessing readiness. Kane was scared, that was obvious. But he nodded when Westfield's eyes met his, ready to proceed. Garrett was calm, always calm, 20 years of experience. He'd faced worse. Mac met Westfield's gaze steadily. No doubt there, just determination. Westfield made his decision. We proceed as planned, but everyone stays extra alert. Any sign we're compromised, we extract immediately. No heroics. Clear. Clear, they answered in unison. The briefing ended. 3 hours until insertion. Mac returned to her bunk, checked her gear one final time. Rifle, ammunition, rangefinder, weather meter, binoculars, night vision, radio, medical kit, water, rations, everything she needed to hunt men who'd been successful for 3 weeks. Men who now knew someone was hunting them. Men, one of whom had taught her everything she knew. She thought about Nathaniel Caldwell, wondered if he'd figured out who was coming for him, if he'd studied the intelligence reports, recognized the tactical approach, realized his former student was now his hunter. Probably. He'd taught her to think like this, to analyze opponents, to predict their actions. He'd be doing the same now, analyzing, predicting. The question was whether the student had surpassed the teacher. She'd find out in the morning. Mac laid down on her bunk, closed her eyes, forced herself to rest. The body needed sleep. The mind needed calm. In 6 hours, she'd be hiking through darkness into the mountains. In 12 hours, she'd be looking through a scope at men who were looking back. Professional versus professional. Training versus training. Experience versus experience. Mac's last thought before sleep took her was simple. Not my team. Not today. The night was absolute. No moon. Cloud cover thick enough to block starlight. In the Cascade Mountains at 0330 hours, darkness became something physical. Mackenzie Brennan moved through it slowly. Night vision goggles turned the world green and grainy. Trees became ghostly shapes. Rocks and roots revealed themselves just in time to avoid stumbling. 50 meters ahead, the Marine Patrol moved in single file. Behind Mac, Garrett Ashford matched her pace exactly. 20 years of working together. They'd learned to move as one organism. Silent, efficient. The hike to position was 4 hours. 12 kilometers through mountain terrain. Elevation gain of 800 meters. Carrying full combat loads. Rifles, ammunition, water, equipment. Mac's pack weighed 42 pounds. Her rifle another 15. At 45 years old, she felt every ounce. The old injury in her shoulder made itself known with each step. The torn rotator cuff. Surgically repaired but never quite right. She'd learned to manage it. Accept it as part of the job. The column stopped. Mac froze mid-step. Listened. Voices. Distant. Speaking Spanish. The Marine point man raised his fist. Everyone dropped to a knee. Mac scanned through her NVGs. Movement. 200 meters northeast. Flashlight beams cutting through the forest. A patrol? Cartel or smugglers? Moving perpendicular to Element 7's road, Mac counted. 4 individuals. Armed. A K-pattern rifles visible even at this distance. They were talking. laughing, unprofessional, not expecting contact. The patrol passed, voices faded, flashlights disappeared into the trees. The Marine point man waited 3 full minutes. Standard protocol. Ensure they weren't doubling back. Then he stood. The column moved forward. Close call. If those four had been 50 meters farther south, the two groups would have intersected. Contact would have been unavoidable. Gunfire would have alerted every hostile in the valley. The mission would have been compromised before it began. Mac's heart rate had elevated. She controlled her breathing, brought it back down. Fear was natural. Panic was fatal. Feel the fear, acknowledge it, then put it aside and continue the mission. They moved on. An hour into the movement, Everett Kane stumbled. His boot caught a root. He went down hard. His radio made a sharp, squelching noise as he hit the ground. In the silence of the mountain night, the sound carried. Everyone froze. Mac's hand went to her rifle. She scanned the tree line, looked for any sign they'd been heard, any indication of enemy response. 30 seconds. A minute. 2 minutes. Nothing. Kane climbed to his feet. Even through NVGs, Mac could see his embarrassment. First deployment, first real operation, and he'd just made a noise that could have killed them all. Garrett moved up beside him, put a hand on his shoulder, squeezed once. Message clear, mistakes happen, learn from it, move on. They continued. By 0500 hours, they'd covered 8 kilometers, halfway to the objective. The terrain grew steeper, the forest thinned slightly. Mac's legs burned with the effort. Age and injury made everything harder. But the mission didn't care about discomfort, so neither did she. At 0600, they reached the final approach to South Ridge. The Marines split off. They'd continue to the valley floor, establish their patrol route, wait for Element 7 to signal ready. Westfield clasped hands with the Marine patrol leader. Silent acknowledgement, professional respect. These 6 men were walking into a known kill zone, using themselves as bait. That took courage. The Marines disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness. Element 7 moved to their position. Mac had selected the site from satellite imagery, a cluster of large boulders and thick brush on the southern slope. Elevation 1,200 meters, 850 meters from the valley floor where the Marine patrol would move. Clear sight lines to the 3 suspected enemy sniper positions across the valley. She and Garrett took the primary position, nestled between 2 massive granite boulders. Brush provided overhead concealment. The position offered protection from return fire and a covered withdrawal route to the rear. Westfield and Kane set up 200 meters behind, overwatch position. They'd monitor communications, provide security, cover Element 7's back. Mac began the methodical process of setting up her shooting position. Every movement deliberate, practiced. She'd done this thousands of times, but complacency killed. So she treated each setup like the first, bipod legs extended, positioned on stable ground, dirt and small rocks cleared away. Any imperfection in the platform would translate to point of impact shift downrange. Rear support bag, adjusted for perfect level. She used a small bubble level attached to her scope. Checked it 3 times. Verified. Scope eye relief. The distance between her eye and the scope lens. She adjusted until it felt right. Muscle memory from 20 years. Bolt operation. She cycled it slowly, felt for any resistance, any grit or debris. Smooth operation was critical. 5 rounds loaded into the internal magazine. Match grade .338 Lapua Magnum. Each round identical. Powder charge weighed to the 10th of a grain. More rounds in easy reach. Laid out on a small piece of cloth beside her rifle. 10 additional rounds. Garrett set up beside her, spotting scope on a small tripod. Laser rangefinder, Kestrel weather meter, data book, all the tools of his trade. They settled in to wait. The sky lightened slowly. Black faded to dark gray, then lighter gray. Details emerged from darkness. The valley below took shape. Trees became visible. The ridge lines across the valley materialized. Max scanned through her rifle scope. The western ridge, 1,150 meters away. Dense forest, rocky outcrops, 1,000 potential hide sites. Northeast ridge, 1,280 meters. Different angle, more exposed, less vegetation. Ancient rock slides had created jumbled boulder fields, perfect for concealment. She looked for thermal signatures, heat differential, anything that didn't belong. Nothing yet. Birds began calling. The mountains woke slowly. A light wind picked up from the west. Mac felt it on her face. Checked the Kestrel. 8 miles per hour, left to right. She'd need to account for that. Wind drift at 1,200 meters with this cartridge was approximately 40 inches. Garrett glassed the suspected positions through his spotting scope. Higher magnification than Mac's rifle scope. Better for identifying targets at extreme range. West Ridge, he whispered. 1150 meters. That rocky outcrop. Thermal signature. Mac shifted her rifle. Found the location. Through the scope, she saw it. Faint. Too warm to be a rock. Wrong shape to be an animal. Slight variation in shadow and texture. A person. Concealed. Waiting. Got it, she breathed. Northeast Ridge, Garrett continued, scanning methodically. 1280, Boulder Field, another signature. Mac found that one too, partially hidden in rocks, barely visible even with magnification. Professional hide, well constructed. That's two, Garrett said. They continued scanning, looking for 3 and 4. 10 minutes passed, the light improved, the valley became fully visible now, beautiful in its way. Green mountains, morning mist. Mac saw it as a geometry problem. Angles, distances, wind values, trajectories. West Ridge again, Garrett murmured. Different position. 1450 meters, that stone terrace. Mac swung her rifle. Found the location. Pre-Columbian stone ruins, ancient terraces built into these mountains centuries ago. This one provided elevation. Cover, excellent firing position. Third signature confirmed. Still looking for 4 and 5, Garrett said. They scanned. Minutes ticked past. The Marine Patrol would be entering the valley soon. They needed all enemy positions identified before that happened, but positions 4 and 5 remained invisible. Garrett kept scanning. Mac, what if Intel overestimated? What if there's only 3 active shooters? Intel said at least 4 based on kill pattern. Multiple kills same day, different locations, kilometers apart. That math requires multiple individuals. Unless some are relocating between shots. Possible, but risky. Professional snipers don't abandon good positions unless compromised. Garrett nodded, continued scanning. Below in the valley, Mac caught movement. The Marine Patrol, 6 men in tactical formation, moving slowly, weapons ready. They appeared alert, but not paranoid. Perfect bait. The clock started now. Mac controlled her breathing. 4 counts in, hold 4. 4 counts out, hold 4. Repeat. Slow heart rate. Steady hands, calm mind. Garrett ranged the targets they'd identified. West Ridge primary 1150 meters confirmed. Northeast 1280 confirmed. West secondary 1450 confirmed. Mac's crosshairs settled on the West Ridge primary position. First target, closest, most likely to engage first based on sight lines to the valley. The Marine Patrol reached the center of the valley, the kill zone, where previous patrols had been hit. They paused there, made themselves obvious. Seconds stretched. Mac watched the West Ridge position through her scope, waiting for movement, for muzzle blast, for any indication the enemy was engaging. Then she saw it. Slight shift in shadows. The faint outline of a rifle barrel extending from behind rocks. The shooter was lining up his shot. West Ridge primary, Garrett confirmed. I see muzzle movement. He's about to quo. The crack of a rifle shot echoed across the valley. In the patrol below, one Marine stumbled and went down. Body armor caught the round. The impact knocked him flat. He wasn't dead, but he was down. Mac's crosshairs were already on target. The instant the enemy sniper had fired his muzzle blast created a signature. Dust. Flash. The slight movement of foliage. She saw his position clearly now. West Ridge, 1150 meters. Wind left to right at 8 miles per hour. Elevation angle negative 15 degrees. Garrett called it. Send it. Mac's finger took up slack on the trigger. 2-stage trigger. First stage was light, just taking up mechanical slack. Second stage was the brake. 3 pounds of pressure, her shoulder spasmed. The old injury. The pain was sudden, sharp, like someone had driven an ice pick into the joint. Her entire arm seized. The rifle shifted, just slightly, just a fraction of an inch. But at 1150 meters, a fraction of an inch at the rifle became 6 inches at the target. She squeezed through the pain. The rifle fired. Recoil pushed back into her shoulder. She ignored it, kept her eye in the scope, watched the impact. The bullet struck rock, 6 inches left of the target. Miss. The enemy sniper saw the impact. Dust and rock chips exploding beside his position. He knew. Someone had just shot at him. He was exposed, compromised. He moved, fast, professional, withdrew from his position immediately. Mac had revealed her position and missed. Lost visual, Garrett said urgently. He's relocating. Can't track. Another rifle shot, different direction, northeast ridge. The second sniper had fired on the Marine patrol. Another Marine went down. This one caught a round in the leg. Real casualty. Screaming. Blood. Max swung her rifle to the northeast position. The spasm in her shoulder hadn't fully passed. Her arm felt weak. A third shot. West Ridge secondary position. The 1450-meter target. He was engaging the Marines. Garrett's voice remained calm. Professional. Mac, you're compromised. West Ridge primary knows we're here. I know. Rounds started impacting near their position, the West Ridge primary sniper. He'd relocated but found a new position. And now he was firing on Mac's hide, suppressing her. Bullets struck 20 meters away. Then 15. Walking closer. Professional fire. Deliberate. Westfield's voice on the radio. 7-1, you're taking fire. Recommend withdrawal. Mac didn't respond immediately. The Marines in the valley were exposed, casualties mounting. If Element 7 withdrew, those Marines died for nothing. She forced herself to focus past the pain, found the northeast ridge target in her scope, 1,280 meters. Wind had picked up slightly, 10 miles per hour now. Gusting, difficult shot, but necessary. Garrett read her mind. Mac, ranging, she cut him off. He understood, gave her the data. 1280, wind left 10 gusting 12. Elevation minus 18 degrees. Mac calculated, applied corrections, settled the crosshairs. The enemy sniper in the northeast was firing on Marines, focused on them, not looking for counter sniper fire. Mistake. Mac fired. The rifle recoiled. She stayed in the scope. The round flew for 1.3 seconds, crossed 1,280 meters. Wind pushed it right. She'd called for that, held left to compensate. Impact. The enemy sniper jerked, went down. Hit, Garrett confirmed. Northeast position, he's down. 1 kill, at least 2 more to go, possibly 4. But Mac's position was compromised. The West Ridge primary sniper was still firing on them. Rounds impacted closer. 10 meters now, then 8. The third sniper West Ridge secondary shifted fire. Now 2 enemy snipers were engaging Mac's position. Converging fire. Professional tactics. Mac rolled left, moved 3 meters, found new cover behind a different boulder. Her shoulder was screaming. Every movement brought fresh agony. Garrett moved with her, stayed low. Rounds snapped overhead. The sound was distinct. Supersonic crack. Close. Westfield on the radio again. 7-1 withdraw, that's an order. Mac keyed her mic. Negative. Marines still exposed. They're extracting now. QRF is moving in. Your mission is complete. Get out. Mac glanced down at the valley. The Marine patrol was indeed withdrawing, carrying their wounded, moving fast. The quick reaction force vehicles appeared on the far side of the valley. Reinforcements arriving. The immediate crisis was passing, but Ghost Team wasn't finished. Another rifle shot. Different sound. Closer. Much closer. Garrett's head snapped around. That came from our ridge, behind us. Mac's blood went cold. Fourth sniper, not on the far ridges, on their ridge, behind them. Westfield's voice, different now, strained. Contact sniper on our ridge, 400 meters east of 7-1 position. The transmission cut off. Then Kane's voice, panicked, young. Westfield is down. He's hit. The lieutenant is hit. Mac's mind raced. The fourth sniper had been positioned to counter any counter-sniper element. He'd been hunting the hunters, and he'd found Westfield and Kane. She grabbed her rifle, started to move toward their position. Garrett grabbed her arm. Mac, you go back there. You're exposed to 3 directions. The 2 snipers on West Ridge and the one behind us. Westfield is hit, and Kane is with him. We need to eliminate the threats before we can render aid. Mac knew he was right, tactically correct, but Westfield was her team leader. Kane's voice on the radio, barely controlled panic. He's bleeding, shoulder wound. I need help. I don't know what to do. Garrett keyed his radio. Kane, listen to me. Apply pressure, direct pressure on the wound. Use his med kit, pressure bandage. Can you do that? I think so, yes, okay. Good. Stay with him. Keep him stable. We'll be there soon. Mac made a decision. Split focus killed soldiers. Right now, she had to trust Kane to handle Westfield. Her job was to eliminate the threats. At least 3 enemy snipers still active, possibly more. Garrett scanned east along the ridgeline. 400 meters, Kane said. There, I've got thermal signature, in that brush cluster. Mac repositioned her rifle. east instead of west. Different target, different range, 420 meters, much closer than the previous shots. Through her scope, she found him, partially concealed in vegetation. Rifle aimed down the ridge. Not at Mac, at Kane and Westfield's position. He was lining up another shot. This shooter was different. His positioning was perfect. His hide was professional. And something about the way he moved was familiar. Mac knew who this was. Nathaniel Caldwell, her instructor from 20 years ago. And now she had to kill him. Garrett ranged him. 420 meters, wind negligible, slight downward angle. Mac settled the crosshairs on Caldwell's position. Center mass. Her breathing slowed. Heart rate dropped. The world narrowed to the scope picture. Caldwell shifted, moving to fire again. At Kane. At wounded Westfield. Mac didn't hesitate. She fired. The rifle bucked. The .338 Lapua round left the muzzle at 2,800 feet per second. It crossed 420 meters almost instantaneously. Through the scope, Mac saw the impact. Caldwell jerked, went down hard. But even as he fell, his rifle fired. Reflex, dying action. The round went wild. Hit confirmed, Garrett said quietly. Fourth position, neutralized. Mac didn't feel relief. She'd just killed her teacher, but she'd also saved Kane, saved Westfield, protected her team. Garrett was already moving. We need to secure Westfield. 2 enemy snipers still active on West Ridge. They'll be repositioning. We have maybe 2 minutes. Mac grabbed her rifle. They moved quickly through the forest, 200 meters. Every shadow could hide an enemy. They reached Kane and Westfield's position. Westfield was conscious, pale, shoulder wound. Blood soaked through the pressure bandage Kane had applied. But he was alive. Kane looked up as they arrived. Relief flooded his face. I did what you said. Pressure. Bandage. Garrett checked the bandage. You did good, Kane. Real good. Max scanned the ridgeline. The 2 remaining enemy snipers would be moving, trying to acquire new positions. KRF is 5 minutes out, Westfield managed. His voice was tight with pain. Evac will take us out. Not yet, Max said. She was still scanning. 2 snipers still active. We don't leave until they're neutralized. Mac, Westfield started. That's not negotiable, Lieutenant. We finish this. Garrett understood. She's right. We leave now. Those 2 disappear. Ghost team continues. More people die. We end it now. Kane looked terrified. How? There's 2 of them. 1 of you. Westfield's hit. I'm not a shooter. Mac finally looked at him. We're more experienced, better trained, and we know where they are. We've got the advantage. Garrett checked his spotting scope. West Ridge, both positions. They're still there, trying to figure out what happened to their teammates. Mac made the call. You stay here with Westfield. I'm going to finish this. Alone? Kane asked. With Garrett spotting? Same as always. Westfield grabbed her arm. Weak grip, but determined. Mac, be careful. These men are professionals. So am I. She pulled away, stood. Her shoulder was barely functional, but she still had 1 good arm, 1 working eye, 1 rifle. That was enough. Garrett followed her. They moved to a new position, 30 meters from where they'd been. Different angle, different concealment. Max set up again, slower this time. Her body was approaching its limits. She settled behind her rifle, found the West Ridge positions in her scope. 2 enemy snipers, 1,150 meters and 1,450 meters. Garrett ranged the first target. West Ridge primary, 1150. He's relocated, new position, north of original hide. Mac found him, partially exposed, looking for them, scanning with binoculars. Mistake. Glass reflects. She saw the reflection, faint, but visible. I've got him. Garrett called the wind. Left to right, 9 miles per hour, gusting 11. Mac calculated, applied corrections. Her shoulder was nearly numb now. She braced the rifle differently, used her left arm more, compensated, settled the crosshairs, controlled breathing, slow trigger press. The rifle fired. Through the scope, she watched the bullet's impact. The enemy sniper went down. Can't confirm kill, Garrett said. Lost visual, but he's down. 1 target down, maybe. 1 definitely remaining. West Ridge secondary, 1,450 meters. The longest shot she'd attempted today. Max searched for him, scanned the stone terrace where he'd been. Empty. He'd moved. Smart. After seeing his teammates fall, he'd relocated, and somewhere out there he was looking for her. Mac kept searching. Garrett scanned with the spotting scope. Minutes passed. The QRF would arrive soon. There, Garrett breathed. West Ridge, new position, 1,500 meters. He's moved farther back, elevated, in those pines. Mac swung her rifle, found the location, barely visible, just a shape in shadows. You sure 60%? Not good enough normally, but they were running out of time. Mac made the gamble. Call it, Garrett ranged. 1,500 meters. Wind left to right, 12 miles per hour, gusting, 15. Elevation minus 20 degrees. Extreme shot. Variable wind, uncertain target identification. Mac settled in, accepted the pain, accepted the difficulty. Crosshairs on target. Wind correction. Elevation correction. Breathing slow. She pressed the trigger. The rifle fired its final round. The magazine was empty. The bullet flew for nearly 2 seconds. 1,500 meters. Wind pushed it. Gravity pulled it. Impact. Through the scope, Mac saw the shape jerk. Fall. Definitely human. Definitely hit. Confirmed, Garrett said. Target down. Mac lowered her rifle. Her shoulder was beyond pain now. Just dead weight. Garrett was scanning, looking for any additional threats. Any indication of more enemy snipers. 30 seconds. A minute. Nothing. I think that's it, he said finally. No more active threats visible. Mac wanted to believe him, but she kept her rifle ready, kept watching. Her radio crackled. Phillips. Element 7 QRF has secured the valley. All friendly personnel extracted. You are cleared to withdraw. Mac keyed her mic. Mission complete. 5 enemy snipers neutralized. Requesting medevac for wounded. Copy that. Medevac inbound. Well done, Element 7. Mac slumped slightly. The adrenaline was fading. Exhaustion flooding in. Garrett put a hand on her good shoulder. Come on, time to go. They moved back to Kane and Westfield's position. The QRF was arriving. 8 operators, fresh, alert. The QRF team leader, Gunnery Sergeant Morrison, approached Mac. She'd met him briefly during mission planning. Solid operator, professional. Ma'am, Commander Phillips wants you extracted immediately. We'll handle battlefield assessment. Mac shook her head. I need to verify the kills. This is my mission. Ma'am, with respect, you're wounded and exhausted. Gunny, I will personally verify every single target. That's not negotiable. Morrison read her expression, understood, nodded. Yes, ma'am, we'll escort you. Over the next hour, Mac and the QRF systematically cleared each enemy position. Dangerous work. Even dead enemies could have rigged positions. But the positions were clean. First position, Northeast Ridge, 1,280 meters from Mac's original hide. The sniper Mac had killed early in the engagement. Body recovered. Male, late 30s. Former U.S. Army Scout sniper. Steyr SSG-08 rifle. Second position, South Ridge, 420 meters. Nathaniel Caldwell, 48 years old. The sight of his body hit Mac harder than she'd expected. He was older, gray in his hair, lines around his eyes, but still recognizably the man who'd taught her 20 years ago. Morrison checked Caldwell's body, found a tactical notebook in his chest pocket, handed it to Mac without comment. She opened it. Pages of handwritten notes, observations, range calculations, and on the last page a letter, addressed to her. Mac stopped reading after the first few lines, closed the notebook, put it in her pocket. She'd read the rest later. Third position, West Ridge Primary, 1,150 meters. Another body, male, early 40s, former Marine Scout sniper. Fourth position, West Ridge Secondary, 1,450 meters. Male, mid-30s, Army background. Killed by Mac's shot at 1,500 meters. But there was a fifth position they hadn't checked yet. Mac frowned. Where's the fifth body? Morrison looked confused. Ma'am, you said you neutralized 5 targets. We've recovered 4 bodies. The first Oars shooter, West Ridge Primary, the one I missed initially, he relocated and kept engaging. I hit him later. Where's his body? Morrison checked his tactical map, reviewed the engagement report. Ma'am, the third body we recovered at West Ridge Primary position, that was the shooter who was engaging you after you missed the first shot. Same individual. He relocated from his original position to a new position 50 meters north. You eliminated him there. Understanding dawned. Mac had thought she'd engaged 2 different shooters at West Ridge Primary, but it was the same man, the one she'd missed initially. He'd relocated professionally. She'd eliminated him in his second position. Not 5 snipers. 4. Intel had been close. They'd estimated at least 4, possibly 5. The actual number was 4. 4 enemy snipers, all eliminated. Mission complete. The price tallied as the QRF compiled reports. 2 Marines killed in action during the Valley engagement. Sergeant Blake Hoffman, and Corporal Travis Donovan. Both had taken rounds during the initial contact. Hoffman's second hit had penetrated his armor. Donovan had been hit in an unprotected area. Both dead before medevac could arrive. 4 Marines wounded. All would survive. Lieutenant Holden Westfield. Shoulder wound. Stable. Already en route to hospital. Would need surgery. Months of recovery. But alive. Petty Officer Everett Kane. Shaken, but unhurt. He'd performed well under impossible pressure. Chief Petty Officer Garrett Ashford. Uninjured. Professional as always. And Mac herself. Wounded, exhausted. Shoulder barely functional. Left arm with minor shrapnel wounds from near-miss impacts. But alive. Mission accomplished. 4 enemy snipers eliminated in approximately 38 minutes of engagement time. The QRF medic insisted on treating Mac's wounds. She let him. Sat on a rock while he cleaned and bandaged her arm, examined her shoulder, recommended immediate evacuation for full medical assessment. She nodded but didn't commit. There was still work to do. The bodies had to be processed, identities confirmed, weapons and equipment cataloged, intelligence collected. Mac supervised it all. She'd killed these men. She owed them the professional respect of doing it right. By the time they were done, the sun was setting. Golden light filtered through the trees. The mountains were beautiful, peaceful. Morrison approached Mac one final time. "Ma'am, Chopper's here for you," Commander Phillips insists. Mac stood. Her legs were unsteady. Adrenaline crash. 20 hours awake. The toll was adding up. "Tell the commander I'm coming." She stood. Garrett appeared beside her, steady hand on her good shoulder. "Come on, Mac. Time to go home." They walked to the landing zone together. The helicopter waited. Rotors spinning. Mac climbed in, sat heavily, strapped in. The helicopter lifted. The mountains fell away below. She looked out the window, down at the ridges where 4 men had died, where 2 Marines had given their lives, where she'd killed her former instructor. The mission was complete. Ghost Team was eliminated. But the price, Garrett sat beside her. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. Presence was enough. The helicopter carried them back to base. 3 days later, Mac sat in Commander Phillips' office. Her arm was bandaged, shoulder in a sling. Medical had been clear. Severe rotator cuff damage. Surgery required. 6 months minimum recovery, possibly permanent limitations. Her career as an active sniper was likely over. Phillips sat across from her. The debrief had been thorough. Every shot analyzed, every decision questioned. Not critically, just professionally. 4 confirmed enemy KYA, Phillips said. 8 coalition deaths prevented. Ghost Team eliminated. Smuggling operation disrupted. By any measure, successful mission. Mac nodded but said nothing. Phillips continued. "The Marines you worked with, the 6 volunteers, they've written commendations. They want you to know that Hoffman and Donovan's sacrifice wasn't in vain." "Does it matter?" Mac asked quietly. 2 families just lost sons. "Does tactical success balance that?" Phillips was quiet for a moment. "No, it doesn't balance. Nothing balances that. But it gives their deaths meaning. They died protecting others, ending a threat. That matters." Mac understood, agreed even, but understanding didn't make it easier. Phillips handed her a folder. "This is for you, from Caldwell's Effects." The tactical notebook, the letter. Mac opened it, read the full text this time. "Mac," Caldwell had written, "if you're reading this, I'm dead. Probably by your hand. That's fitting. I taught you. It's right that you surpassed me. 3 years ago, I discovered something I couldn't ignore. Corruption. Weapons smuggling. People I trusted doing things that betrayed everything we stood for. I tried to report it. Through channels. By the book. And I was threatened. Told to stand down or face consequences. I couldn't stand down, so I left. Went rogue, gathered evidence. But the people I was investigating were powerful. They painted me as a deserter. A traitor. And maybe I became what they said I was. Ghost Team wasn't supposed to kill anyone. We were supposed to be security. Keep people away long enough for me to finish documenting everything. But the cartel had other ideas. And once you start down that path, it's hard to stop. I made choices, bad choices. People died because of them. I own that. But I want you to know I never forgot what I taught you. Never forgot the standards. I just failed to live up to them. If we meet as enemies, don't hesitate. The mission matters more than any individual. I taught you that, and now you've proven you remember. You were my best student. I'm proud of who you became, even if that meant you had to kill me to protect others. Do better than I did. Stay true. Don't compromise. Nate." Mac read it twice. then carefully folded the letter, put it back in the notebook. Caldwell had made his choices. She'd made hers. They'd ended up on opposite sides. There was a lesson there about choices, about consequences. She'd carry that lesson. Phillips watched her process it, then said gently, "Medical says your shoulder needs surgery. 6 months recovery minimum. You're being recommended for instructor duty. Scout Sniper School, train the next generation." Mac nodded slowly. "That's appropriate. Is it what you want?" "Doesn't matter what I want, it's what the job requires. I can't operate anymore, can't make the shots I used to make, but I can teach, pass on what I learned. You just eliminated 4 enemy snipers in 38 minutes. That's exceptional. I also missed my first shot, let 2 Marines die, got my team wounded, killed my former instructor. Exceptional isn't the word I'd use." Phillips leaned forward. "Those Marines volunteered knowing the risk. Your team survived because of your leadership, and Caldwell made his choices. You made the hard calls under impossible circumstances. That's not failure, that's reality." Mac wanted to believe him. Part of her did. But another part, the part that carried Bravo Team's deaths from 2 years ago, that part knew different. Success and failure weren't binary, they coexisted. "When does instructor duty start?" she asked. 6 weeks, after surgery and initial recovery. Then you'll have a class of 20 new students. Teach them everything you know. Everything I know includes the mistakes, the failures. "That's the most important part," Phillips said. "Anyone can teach the technical. You'll teach them what it really means, what it requires. That's invaluable." Max stood. "I'll do my best, sir." "You always do." She left the office, walked across the base. The mountain air was cold, clean. Garrett found her at the memorial wall, names engraved in stone, seals who'd died in service. Mac was looking at 3 names in particular. Shot, kept me on target, saved Kane, and shot, kept me on target, saved Kane and Westfield. Teamwork. You're the one who pulled the triggers. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Garrett said, "Heard you're going to be an instructor." "That's good. You've got a lot to teach. You staying operational. For now, few more years. Then maybe I'll join you. The grumpy old veterans showing kids how it's really done." Mac almost smiled. "Sounds terrible. Sounds perfect." They stood together. 2 decades of partnership, 12 deployments, countless missions, trust, friendship. The work continued. The mission went on. There would always be threats, always enemies, and there would always be warriors willing to do the hard work. Mac would teach them, prepare them, give them every advantage. 3 years later, Mac stood in front of a classroom at Scout Sniper School. 20 students, all young, all eager, all certain they were ready. She'd teach them otherwise. "My name is Mackenzie Brennan," she began. 12 years as a SEAL sniper, 5 deployments, 47 confirmed eliminations. And I'm here to tell you that none of those numbers matter as much as what I'm going to teach you about the realities of this profession. 3 years ago, I eliminated 4 enemy snipers in 38 minutes. Textbook operation by some measures. Mission success, but 2 Marines died during that operation. My team leader was wounded, and I killed my former instructor, the man who made me what I am. Before we start teaching you how to shoot, I'm going to teach you what it means, what it requires, and whether you're actually ready. Because if you're not ready, that's okay. This isn't for everyone. But if you stay, if you complete this training, you'll be prepared. You'll understand. Questions? One hand raised. Young SEAL. Couldn't be more than 25. "Ma'am, why do you still do this? If it's so difficult, why keep serving?" Mac considered the question. Honest question. Deserved honest answer. Because someone has to. Because there are threats out there. People who'll harm innocents if no one stops them. And because I can teach you to do it better than I did. Smarter. That's why I'm here. Not for glory, not for recognition. To make sure the next generation survives. Succeeds, goes home. That's the mission now. The student nodded, understood, or would eventually. Mac turned to the board, began the first lesson, technical foundations, range calculation, wind reading, but later they'd get to the important parts, the realities, the choices. She'd make sure they were ready. Outside the classroom, the mountains waited, the Cascade Range, where 4 men had died, where 2 Marines had given everything, where Mac had learned hard lessons. Those mountains were silent now, peaceful, but Mac would never forget what had happened there. 38 minutes that defined a career, 4 targets, 2 casualties, 1 instructor killed. The mission had been completed. Ghost Team was gone, and the lessons were carried forward. Every day, every class, every student, Sergeant Blake Hoffman, Corporal Travis Donovan, Nathaniel Caldwell, they were not forgotten. They would never be forgotten. That was the promise Mac made. To herself, to them, to everyone who'd paid the price. The work continued, the mission went on, and Mac would ensure the next generation was ready. Because that was the job. That was the standard. Nothing less would be acceptable. The mountains remembered, and so did she, always.